AITA for my reaction when my daughter tricked me into dinner to ambush me with lawyers. My name is Bob. Robert McKinley, if you want the full name. I am 61 years old, semi-retired after 33 years with the city's Public Works Department, and I live in a modest 3-bedroom house on the outskirts of Columbus, Ohio. It is not much, but it is mine. I have maintained it alone since the divorce, and even today, I mow the lawn on Sundays and fix what breaks before it becomes a problem. But my pride and joy is a 1998 Lincoln Town car that I bought from a friend's cousin in almost perfect condition. It runs beautifully, and I keep it that way. This car has been my escape, my therapist, and on too many nights, my only company. I never thought it would become the breaking point with my daughter. But that is where this story begins. Nicole, my only daughter, my little girl, the one who wore my t-shirts as pajamas and asked me every Friday if we could make pancakes again the next day. Her mother, Cheryl, and I separated when Nikki was 9. The usual irreconcilable differences, distant affections, a marriage that had grown cold long before the papers arrived. She kept the downtown apartment and found herself a new boyfriend in less than 6 months. I got custody every other weekend, summers, and what felt like the entire emotional weight of raising a little girl in a broken home. I gave Nikki everything I could, not always in money but in time. Homework help, home-cooked meals, dance recitals. I never missed one, even when stringing together double shifts. I wanted to be the father she could count on. Stable, even if not exciting, and I thought I had done well. Of course, as she grew up, things changed. She started to lean more toward her mother's lifestyle, flashier, more social, more expensive. I thought it was just a phase. And then came the call. It was a Wednesday afternoon, 2 months ago. I had just gotten back from buying oil filters and windshield wipers for the Lincoln. I was settling down with a sandwich when the phone rang. Her name popped up, Nikki Girl, still saved that way in my contacts out of habit or hope. "Hi, sweetheart," I said, smiling even before hearing her voice. "Dad?" She started without a greeting. "I need a huge favor." Her tone was light, but strained, nervous maybe. I leaned back against the couch. "What is going on?" "Well, you know the wedding is coming up and the budget got a little away from us. It is my dream day, Dad." I did not imagine everything would add up so fast. I already knew where this was heading. My stomach tightened as she continued. "I thought about the car. The Lincoln is worth a fair bit, right? Maybe $10,000 or $15,000. If you sell it now, you can surely get that much for it." I did not say anything right away. I just looked out the window toward the driveway where that pale blue beauty shined under the afternoon sun. "You want me to sell my car?" I finally said slowly and softly. "To help you pay for the wedding?" "Well, yes, it just sits there. You do not need to commute to work anymore, and you always said you would do anything for me." That sentence hit me harder than expected. It was the tone, as if saying anything meant I had no right to refuse. "Nicole," I said firmly, "I will not sell the Lincoln." There was a silence. "Why not?" "Because this car means something to me, and beyond that, it is mine. I worked to get it. I maintained it. Even when your mother was out, and God knows with whom. You want a nice wedding? Fine. But you are not going to guilt-trip me into giving up the only thing I have left, just so you can have a fancy reception and pay for all those Instagram photos." She went silent again, but this time it was not thoughtful. It was cold. "Is that your final answer?" "Yes." She hung up without another word. I stood staring at the phone in disbelief. An hour later, when I tried to call her back, I got a message saying my number had been blocked. Blocked. My daughter, my only daughter, just like that without anything else. I stood there stunned until the sun went down and the sandwich I had made sat untouched beside me. I did not cry. I did not yell. I just sat in that kind of silence that slowly crushes your chest until you can barely breathe. The next day, I checked Facebook. Her profile was still public. I cannot believe there are people who choose objects over family. Weddings reveal true priorities. The comments did not take long, especially from Cheryl's side. A cousin offered to start a GoFundMe. Another commented, "You do not need toxic people for your big day." And there it was, in black and white, I was toxic. I was uninvited. I had been erased. I did not respond online, or by text, or even when my sister called me and said, "You should at least try again." I did not need to try. I had already done that my whole life. My whole life had been an attempt for her, for the idea that love and loyalty would always be enough. It turned out they were not. The following days were filled with a silence that did not feel natural. It was not just the absence of noise, but the presence of something heavier. My house had always been quiet, with no one to answer to, no kids running down the halls, no partners asking where on earth I had left the keys. I used to like that. I thought silence was peace, but after Nicole blocked me, it felt more like a punishment. I would pick up my phone mindlessly, reflexively checking if there was a message, a call, even a forwarded meme. But nothing came, only the usual promotional emails and a missed call from a roofing company I had already told to take me off their list 3 weeks earlier. I did not tell anyone at first, not the former coworkers I still played darts with on Thursdays, nor the mail carriers I sometimes chatted with in the mornings. Shame has a way of sealing your lips, even when deep down you know you did the right thing. I kept telling myself that. You did the right thing, Bob. But if I truly believed it, why did I keep checking that damn phone like a teenager waiting for an invitation to the prom? My sister Diane was the first to confront me. She showed up unannounced on a Friday with a grocery bag, a six-pack, and a frozen pizza. She walked in as if she still had a key. She did not. She went straight to the freezer. "You look like someone who just lost a relative," she said without malice. "It feels like I did," I muttered, sinking deeper into the recliner. She raised an eyebrow. "Nikki still has not called." "She has not. She blocked me everywhere." She did not say anything for a moment. She just preheated the oven, opened a beer, and sat across from me. She did not push like others would have. She just waited. Finally, I spoke. She asked me to sell the Lincoln, and Diane whistled softly. "For the wedding." I nodded. And when I told her no, she cut me off as if I had never been anything but a vending machine. Diane's expression darkened. "Cheryl has her under her spell again. I saw them at a brunch a few weeks ago. Nikki had that same fake laugh. It gave me goosebumps. She used to be better than that," I said quietly. "I raised her better than that." "No one is saying you did not." She did not even argue. She just blocked me like I was nothing. She looked at me for a long time and then said, "You should go see her." I gave her a dirty look. Not to beg her, just to remind her who you really are. You are not an ATM with a beard, Bob. You are her father. She needs to remember that. I did not answer. I just looked at the framed picture on the shelf across from me. Nicole at 12 next to me in front of the Lincoln, both of us smiling with grease on our faces. I remembered that day. I had let her help me change the spark plugs. She said she felt like a real mechanic. I got up, went to the garage, and opened the door. The Lincoln was there, silent, spotless, loyal. I ran my fingers over the hood, feeling the cold metal under my skin. I will not sell it for anyone, for anything. 3 days later came the text from an unknown number. "Hi, Dad. Can we talk? Dinner this Sunday. Just you and me, please." My heart leapt and sank at the same time. A part of me wanted to believe it was sincere. Another part knew better. Still, I replied, "Where?" And she gave me the address of a nice Italian restaurant across town. Diane told me not to go alone. "You think Cheryl will not be there? This smells bad." She said it would be just her and me. Diane shook her head. "You raised her, but Cheryl reprogrammed her." I went anyway. I put on my nice shirt. I even polished my shoes. A part of me, maybe the father part, maybe the idiot part, still hoped this was her attempt to fix things. I arrived 5 minutes early. I asked the hostess for Nicole McKinley's table. She smiled and led me to a table in the back. That is when I saw them. Cheryl sitting on the left, 2 men in suits on the right. Nicole in the center with a tight, forced smile. My stomach turned. I stopped dead in my tracks. Nicole stood up and pointed to the empty chair. "Dad, thanks for coming. Have a seat." I did not move. I looked at her, then at Cheryl. Cheryl gave me a forced smile. "We just want to talk, Bob." One of the men, in his 40s, bald, with an expanding file folder in his hand, spoke immediately. "Mr. McKinley, I am Steve Langford. This is my colleague Brian Mills. We are legal counsel." "Legal counsel," I repeated, still frozen. "For what?" Nicole took a step forward, now with the folder in her hands. "It is just paperwork. Something to secure the future. You used to say you wanted to take care of me." "Enough," I said in a firmer voice than I expected. "Dad, listen." "No, you listen to me right now." I looked at them one by one. I do not know what kind of show this is, but I am not signing any papers. Cheryl sighed. "Bob, stop being dramatic." "Dramatic," I snapped. You ambush me with lawyers, and you call it a dinner. If this is what you think love is, I want no part of it. Nicole's face turned crimson. So that is it. You are going to cut me off. I looked her straight in the eye. You are the one who cut me off the day you asked me to trade my dignity for your wedding. The day you blocked me like spam. She blinked hard, but I no longer cared. I turned to leave, and before walking out, I said it clearly, calmly. Forget I ever existed. I did not drive straight home. After walking out of that restaurant, I got into the Lincoln and sat there, engine off, looking through the windshield into the void. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage, from that disappointment that does not hit all at once, but in waves, like a slow flood rising to your ankles, until you realize you are already underwater. I knew Nicole had changed. I was not blind. But that night showed me clearly that she was not just lost, she was gone. At least the version of her that I had raised. The little girl who made me crooked birthday cards and cried when I left for night shifts was not in that room. And if she was, she had been buried under so much greed and entitlement that I no longer recognized her. I ended up parked in front of the city park, where I used to take her on Sundays. We would feed the ducks, share soft pretzels, and she would tell me about the school drama that week. I sat on the same bench, now cracked and warped by the years, and tried to retrace the steps where I had gone wrong. Was it the divorce, the long work hours? The fact that I could not buy her a new phone every time it broke like Cheryl did? I did not know. Maybe all of it, or maybe none of it. Maybe she had simply seen the world her mother lived in, shiny, superficial, polished, and thought that was the only way to feel loved. Around midnight, I finally went home. Diane called me the next morning before I even got out of bed. You went, huh? She asked. Yes. There was a pause. And they ambushed you with 2 lawyers and Cheryl. Jesus, Bob, they tried to make you sign away your assets, the house, the pension, everything. You did not sign. I did not. Did you sign anything? No, I left. Good. I sat on the edge of the bed looking at the faded stain on the carpet where my dresser used to be. They looked me in the face, handed me legal documents, and told me that if I really loved her, I would give everything. That is not love, Diane said firmly. That is blackmail. But she believed it. She really believed I was going to give in. She learned that somewhere. We did not say it, but we both knew where it came from. Cheryl had always been about appearances, always measuring love in gifts and gestures. If it did not come with balloons or the latest gadget, you were the boring dad, the cheapskate, the one who did not understand. That week, the silence around me turned cold. Not the kind that hurts, but the kind that clarifies. I spent my days like a man cleaning out his attic, picking up memories and intentionally setting them aside. I packed old photos into boxes. Nicole at prom. Nicole getting her diploma. Nicole in my arms at the hospital wrapped in a pink beanie. I did not throw them away, I just put them out of sight. It felt like archiving a version of myself that I could no longer be. 3 days after the dinner, the voicemail started. First Cheryl. Her voice was fake, sweet, with a layer of passive aggression. Bob, what you did the other night was entirely inappropriate. You humiliated Nicole in public. You made her look desperate when all she wanted was to secure her future. I do not know what kind of man turns his back on his only daughter, but you should be ashamed. Then her sister, Bob, sign the damn paper. You do not need all that. You are already retired. Let her start her life. Do not be bitter. Next, a call from Nicole. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. Her voice was cracked as if she had been crying. I did not know how to ask. Dad, I am just scared. I am trying to build something with Connor, and I do not want to start our marriage in debt. You are waiting, and I just thought that if I made it official, it would not feel like begging. I did not mean to hurt you. I listened to that message 10 times. Not because I was moved, but because I could not figure out if she really believed what she was saying. The next day, she posted a long, vague status on social media, something about toxic family ties and learning to let go of those who only love you when they can control you. Her friends commented with hearts and virtual hugs. One even wrote, "You are so brave to speak your truth." Meanwhile, my phone stayed silent. No one from her side messaged me to hear my side of the story. No one asked what kind of man sits alone on his porch while his daughter paints him as the villain. But I did not reply. I did not correct the narrative. I was not going to wage a public relations war against my own daughter. Diane came back that Friday. She brought Chinese food and a bottle of whiskey. "You are very quiet," she said, handing me a plate. "What do you want me to say?" She chewed for a moment, then said, "You are going to change your will." "I already did." She looked up, surprised. "I called my lawyer. I removed her from everything. The house goes to a charity. The car to my godson. The rest to a veterans fund." Diane nodded slowly. "Good, that is good. I never thought I would have to protect myself from my own daughter." She put down her fork. "You did not fail her, Bob. She is the one who failed you." That night, I sat on the back porch and listened to the hum of the summer cicadas in the dark. I thought peace arrived at retirement, when the mortgage was paid, when the kids grew up, but I was starting to understand something deeper. Peace is not found. It is chosen, it is fought for, and sometimes it costs more than you ever imagined. I thought removing her from the will would bring me some relief, like snapping off a rotten branch before it infected the rest of the tree. But if anything, it made the silence louder. Every night, I would sit in the same chair on the back porch, whiskey in hand, staring into the dark, trying to untie the knot in my chest. The grief did not arrive like a sudden sunrise. It came in small moments. Deciding not to answer the phone when her name popped up. Ignoring another passive-aggressive post from Cheryl. Declining an invitation to a brunch from a cousin who had already taken sides. But it also came with a heavy price. Loneliness. The storm hit on a Sunday morning. Diane called me first. "Bob, you are not going to like this." "What happened now?" "She posted about you again. This time, she tagged people." I did not look at it right away. I made coffee and watered the plants. I even vacuumed the hallway before opening Facebook as if I were defusing a bomb. And there it was, Nicole's face, filtered and tearful in a photo carousel accompanied by screenshots of a written statement. The caption read, "Some already know what I am going through. Others are about to find out." I never thought I would be the daughter of a man who could become so cold. I did not need to read the rest, but I did. Every word painted me as a heartless miser who had refused to support her future. She claimed I had denied her emotional and financial support her entire life, only to shut the door on her in her most vulnerable moment. She left out the legal ambush. She reduced the demands for assets to a simple private request. "Help me get started with my future husband." And then came the comments. "I am so sorry, Nikki. You deserve better." Cutting ties with toxic parents is self-care. What kind of father disinherits his daughter over money? He is surely a narcissist. They hate it when you set boundaries. Boundaries. I wanted to scream. I am the one setting boundaries. But I did not comment. I did not call. I did not run to defend myself because I know how it works. Public opinion does not want nuance. It wants a villain. And I had the mask they had put on me. By Monday, I already had 3 voicemails from extended family members. One was from Cheryl's brother, Roger. "I do not know what your problem is, Bob, but she is your daughter. You cannot cut family off like that. It is disgusting. You are a bitter old man." Another from my niece Jenna. "Just sign the house. Uncle Bob, you do not need it. Let the next generation have something." And one from someone I had not heard from in 5 years, an old family friend named Lori, who ended her message by saying, "I never thought you were vindictive." I listened to each one once, then I deleted them. That afternoon, I went to my lawyer's office to finalize the amended will. The building was small, brick facade and peeling paint on the door. Humble like the lawyer himself. Mr. Carter had represented me during the divorce, and later when I bought the house in 2003, he knew me. He knew I was not the monster circulating on the internet. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, looking up from the papers. "Completely sure. She might contest it. Let her try." He hesitated for a moment. "Do you want to leave a letter for when it is read?" I stayed silent. I thought about it, then I nodded. "Yes, I will write something." I went home and sat at the kitchen table, the same spot where I helped Nicole with her math. And I wrote a letter I hoped she would never have to read. It was not cruel, just clear. I told her I loved her, but that love does not mean giving in to manipulation. Real family does not show up with lawyers. Trust, once broken, requires more than tears and public sympathy to rebuild. I ended with 5 words that I still stand by. I chose peace over appearances. Later that week, something unexpected happened. I went to get my hair cut at the same place for over a decade, and I noticed Keith, the barber, was unusually quiet. Usually, we joked or talked about baseball. This time, it was strictly professional. When I got up to leave, he said, "Hey, about what is going on online with your daughter?" I turned around slowly. "I just want to say I understand. My dad cut ties with my brother last year over similar things. It is not easy, but sometimes you have to do what is right for your own mental health." I nodded, genuinely surprised. "Thanks, Keith. People talk," he said with a shrug, "but they do not walk in your shoes." It was the first real moment of validation I had gotten outside of Diane. That night, she came over with more groceries and asked me, "Are you holding up?" "I am trying," I replied. She leaned against the counter. "You could tell your side of the story on Facebook." "I could," I said, "but I will not." "Why not?" "Because those who matter already know, and those who believe her version were never on my side to begin with." She smiled sadly. "You are stronger than me." "No, just older. I learned where peace lives." I walked her to her car and stood in the driveway for a long time watching the wind sway the trees. The Lincoln was in the garage, untouched but solid, a symbol of everything I still had, everything I had fought to keep. I did not lose my daughter that week. I lost the illusion of who I thought she was, and in a way, that loss was enlightening. Painful, yes, but also liberating. The first Saturday of August brought a heat that stuck to everything: shirts, skin, even moods. The air was heavy with more than just humidity. I spent the morning cleaning the garage, not because it was necessary, but because I needed to keep my hands busy. I brought down old boxes, organized the tools, swept the concrete until not a speck of dust remained. Every hour without thinking of Nicole was a small victory, and that day, I needed them. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands with a rag, not knowing who would show up unannounced. Opening the door, it was Tara, Nicole's best friend since high school. I had not seen her in over a year since her college graduation party, where she hugged me tight and said, "You are the only dad who was ever really there for me." She looked the same: freckles, nervous energy, long curls pulled up in a bun, but her face now wore a different expression. Doubt. "Hello, Mr. McKinley." "Tara, what a surprise. Can I come in for just a few minutes?" I stepped aside to let her in. "Do you want some water?" She shook her head. "I will not stay long." She sat on the edge of the armchair, as if she was afraid to sink into it. I stayed standing, arms crossed, leaning against the back of the couch. "Nikki does not know I am here," she began. "I figured. I saw the post, the comments. I bit my tongue for weeks, and look, I do not want to intrude, but I could not keep quiet anymore." I raised an eyebrow. "You came all the way here to defend her?" "No," she said quickly. "I came to tell you that you are not crazy, or cruel, or cold. You are just exhausted, and I think you have every right to be." That stopped me for a moment. I did not realize how much I needed to hear that out loud. She told me about the dinner. Tara continued, looking down. "Well, her version of it anyway. But I was with her the next morning when she was still bragging about cornering you, about how she had all the paperwork set up like it was a game. It made me sick to my stomach." "She said that?" I asked softly. "She said it, and I told her she was being ruthless." She told me, "He is just an old man. He does not need all that." Tara looked at me. That is when I knew she was no longer the Nikki I grew up with. "I do not know who this girl is now." I nodded slowly. "Me neither." She hesitated. Then she pulled a folded paper from her purse. "I know it is none of my business, but I wrote her a letter. I was going to give it to her, but I think you should read it instead." I took the letter, but I did not open it. "Thank you, Tara." "I am sorry," she said, standing up. "I just wanted you to know that not everyone is buying her story. Some of us remember everything you did for her, for all of us." I walked her to the door. She turned around before leaving. "I hope one day she wakes up. But if she does not, you are still not wrong." When she left, I sat on the edge of the couch and stared at the letter. I did not read it right away. I was not sure I wanted to know what it said about my daughter, even if it was the truth. That night, I poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey. I went out into the yard and looked at the stars. There was something about them that felt more solid than anything down here. They twinkled like when I held Nicole for the first time, when I taught her to ride a bike, when I cheered louder than anyone at her high school graduation. People do not talk enough about the grief of losing someone who is still alive. It is not like death, it is more complicated. No funeral, no place to take flowers, no clean goodbyes, just a slow unraveling of everything you thought was unbreakable. The next morning, I packed the last of her things from the attic. Old trophies, yearbooks. Her prom dress still wrapped in dry cleaner plastic. I did not throw it away. I just labeled the box with her name, Nicole, and left it in the back corner. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. I had to accept that this chapter was closed. 2 days later, Cheryl showed up unannounced. No call, just her sleek black Lexus in my driveway like a bad omen. She knocked hard. I opened the door, but I did not step aside. Bob, Cheryl tilted her head. We need to talk about how you are humiliating her. All this silence online, refusing to correct the narrative, makes you look guilty. I am silent. It is not guilt, it is restraint. She sighed, annoyed. She is losing control. Do you know that? No, she is crying all the time. She is having doubts. It could ruin her wedding. Sounds like her problem. She is your daughter. No, now she is your project. You are the one who made her this way, spoiled, manipulative, self-serving, and you can keep her. Cheryl's jaw clenched. You are selfish. I leaned in calmly and clearly. I am sane. For the first time in years, I am choosing my peace over your theatrics. And if that means losing both of you, so be it. She blinked hard. Then she turned around without another word. I closed the door behind her slowly, as if closing off a room I would never enter again. That night, I finally read Tara's letter. It was not dramatic, just a quiet, painful honesty. It talked about who Nikki used to be, about how she had changed, about how Bob had been the only man in their lives to always keep his word. It ended with this sentence: some bridges burn themselves, and maybe that is a blessing. She was right. It is strange how quickly the world forgets your drama when you stop feeding it. After Cheryl's ambush in the driveway, and after Nicole's smear campaign reached its peak, the noise started to die down. The phone stopped ringing. The notifications slowed down. I was no longer the villain of the week. I was just another older man with a stubborn streak and a story that had not ended the way people hoped. And that is where I learned it. That is where peace really begins. Not with applause, not with redemption arcs, but with the absence of chaos, with quiet mornings, clean floors, and clear thoughts. I took a trip the following week, not too far, just a few hours north, to a small cabin I used to rent when Nicole was in high school. It was tucked away in a forest clearing near a slow river, the kind of place that makes you breathe deeper without realizing it. No television, spotty cell service, just me, a deck of cards, a crate of wood, and a worn copy of The Old Man and the Sea. I did not tell anyone where I was going, not even Diane. I needed a place where no one expected anything from me. That first night in the cabin, I built a fire and sat outside watching the flames twist and crackle. I thought about the version of me that had been the biggest part of my life. A provider, a fixer, a man who absorbed stress like insulation, believing it made me strong, and maybe it did. But at some point, I mistook resilience for love. I believed that if I kept giving, eventually people would see the depth of my sacrifice. But that is the lie, right? Sacrifice does not always generate loyalty. Sometimes it just teaches people to keep taking in silence. I allowed myself to cry, not only for the relationship I had lost, but for the father I had desperately tried to be. I cried for the first time in years, and not out of weakness, but out of pure release. The tears were not just for Nicole, they were for every version of me that had tied itself in knots trying to be enough. On the third day, I found an old photo in my wallet. Nicole at 7, sitting on the hood of the Lincoln, her arm hanging over my shoulder as if she owned the world. We were smiling real smiles. I did not throw it away. I kept it in the back pocket of my journal because even if she broke me in ways she will never fully understand, I will not let bitterness rewrite my memories. The love I gave was real. That is what matters. When I got home, Diane was waiting for me on the porch with 2 cups of coffee, and that same worry creased on her forehead. Jesus, Bob, now you are disappearing too. I needed a reset. You look different. You feel different, she said, handing me a cup. You did not miss much around here. The Facebook drama calmed down. Nikki has not posted anything new in over a week. I nodded, but I did not say anything. What she posted no longer mattered to me. I was no longer checking. That part of me, the one that needed to monitor every digital wave to know where I stood, was gone. Diane sat next to me. Do you think she will ever come back? Maybe, but I am not going to wait for her. She smiled softly. That is already something. We drank our coffee in silence, and I thought about how much time had passed since silence felt like peace and not a punishment. The yard was quiet. The Lincoln was in the driveway, freshly washed, still gleaming. I decided to take it out for a spin later. No destination, just the open road. A week later, I received a letter in the mail with no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakably Nicole's. My hands shook as I opened it, not with hope, but bracing myself for one last demand. It was not long, just a few lines. Dad, I do not know if you will read this. I am not ready to ask for forgiveness yet, but I am also not ready to hate you. I thought you were punishing me, but maybe you were just protecting yourself. I am starting to understand that. I hope you are well. Nikki. I did not cry. I did not reply. I folded it, tucked it into the same pocket of the journal where the photo was, and closed the notebook. It was the redeeming note. Not a reconciliation, but an acknowledgement, a sign that in some corner of the chaos she is navigating, a part of her still remembers the man I was. I am content with that because peace, I have learned, is not about fixing what is broken. It is about knowing when to leave it as it is. It is the discipline of saying, I have done enough. And when I look in the mirror now, I see a man who stood his ground. Not out of spite, but because self-preservation is not cruelty, it is clarity. Comment. I've been thinking about this story long after I finished recording it. One thing that really stayed with me is how important it is to protect our own peace. Setting healthy boundaries with the people we love can be really tough, but sometimes it's the only way to keep our self-respect intact. Taking care of your own mental health is never selfish. It's actually a responsibility we owe to ourselves. True healing often starts when we accept what we can't change in others. I hope this reminds you that you have every right to choose peace over chaos. You're not alone if you're facing difficult family situations right now. Thank you for watching these stories with me. I truly hope they help you feel stronger and more at peace in your own life. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.